Right. Thank you, Nilesh. So, good afternoon to all, and let's start the third session, which is allocated to me. And sorry for that, because two sessions consecutively, you have to bear me and you have to listen to me. But I'll try to make this session a bit more interesting so that you also gain and get some insight into what is a technology life cycle and how we use technology life cycle for planning the management of technology. Right. So the title is Technology Life Cycle and Product Life Cycle, and how the technology life cycle and product life cycle help organizations, help institutions, industry to plan for migrating from a current version of technology to the next version of technology, and accordingly plan strategies to do that. Okay. So when we call it as a life cycle, means it is similar to a biological life cycle. It has two ends. It starts with a birth and ends with the RIP, that is a death of any living entity. So when we say that technology life cycle, means we also consider technology similar to this kind of entity which comes into a market, takes birth, that is launched, and then it grows old, declines, and then finally it vanishes from the user, it vanishes from the market. So this is what we call as a technology life cycle. As I said, two endpoints. So any technology also starts from inspiration. And from this inspiration, we get an idea. And then that idea we get convert into some kind of a useful application. And that useful application goes into operation. And once the operation stops delivering the benefits to the user, they look for some other alternative. They look for a substitution. And then finally, when this is previous version is substituted with a new version, this technology goes to RIP, and that's what we call as a death. So here the example is the humans get inspiration from a natural satellite to Earth, that is Moon. And from this inspiration, they got idea to create artificial satellites. And now there are n number of artificial satellites which are in operation. So you have a natural satellite, you have an artificial satellite. And we have so many artificial satellites that all these white dots in the atmosphere, in the universe, above globe indicate the man-made artificial satellites in operation. So they have to be substituted after the utilization. So today, in front of the space agencies all across the world, the biggest challenge is how to remove the satellites which are not in use, which are like a trash, scrap, or a debris. So the removal of space debris is a new challenge to the space scientists today. So that means to end from inspiration to substitution, we call it a life cycle, and technology also has a life cycle. Okay. So technology life cycle means a predictable pattern followed by a technological innovation from inception and development to market saturation and replacement. Means from research and development comes a technology, then technology grows, ascent of technology, then after growth, technology become mature, and then technology decline, and the technology is substituted. It's similar, technology is introduced, technology grows, technology become mature, and then technology has to be substituted. So that's why the term life cycle is attached here. Now, technology life cycle has two distinct parts. What are the distinct parts? One is a technology development cycle, another is a technology application cycle. And here, this is how the humans have evolved. So development of humans. And then here, how the application orientation of humans to various technologies. So as a development cycle and application cycle, we will see both these parts separately, what is a technology development cycle, then what is a technology application cycle. And in fact, technology application cycle is also called product life cycle. Then how the integration of technology development cycle and technology application cycle can be utilized for managing technology. So let's first start with technology development cycle. Technology development cycle starts with an idea, goes to research, goes to development, testing, analysis, and introduction. So once an inspiration gives an idea, that idea is packed into some useful application, and then that useful application is introduced into the market. So this is your technology development cycle. It goes through 6 different phases. Phases are idea generation and selection, research and development, that is technology development, then technology application design, then prototype development, then user trials and market testing, and finally, technology application launch. So let's take it one by one and try to explain what is phase 1. In phase 1, through inspiration, number of ideas are generated. Now, every organization, every company has a limited funds, scarcity of funds, right? So they cannot fund every idea because every idea is not as promising as other ideas. So they have to select promising ideas out of unpromising ideas. So my phase 1 is generate lot many ideas, create a filter system where the unpromising ideas are sheaved out and only promising ideas are taken. So this is my first phase. Now, your research and development should start on promising ideas. And then few promising ideas may fructify into some technologies. So my research and development gets into technology. Now, when my technology is ready, I have to design an application of that technology. Like my technology of antenna is ready, my technology of battery is ready, my technology of touch screen is ready, my technology of materials are ready. So with all these technologies, I will pack it into a design to make a cell phone. So that is a technology application design. Every technology application design is a combination of many technologies. So here, the design engineers, the product engineers, they sit together and put various technologies on a common platform to make a useful application. So that is technology application design. That's what we do in development. Then comes to proto development. Now this application from a breadboard model has to go to a laboratory model. So this is a prototype or maybe an industrial model so that we can take it for testing to a simulated environment within the laboratory to an actual environment in the market. So that is your analysis, what we call as a user trials and market testing. And when the results and feedback from this trial is positive and encouraging, we launch that technology application in the market. And that is your conversion of technology development cycle to the application cycle happens when the technology application is launched, right? So this is my technology development cycle. Always remember, in technology development cycle, in every phase, right? In every phase, the focus and emphasis is on rejection, not on selection. You keep on rejecting the things from phase 1 to phase 6 so that only the promising things move forward. So rejection is the focus, rejection is the objective of technology development cycle. So if I'm saying that the rejection is the focus, it is like a funnel. Inspirations and scanning of ideas, you scan n number of ideas. Then identification and search of a promising idea. It happens on the first level. Then we make a screening, we make application, we make development, test and trials, we make technology, and then the launch. So means this is how your new technology is sheaved through various filters into this funnel so that n number of ideas only lead to 1 or 2 promising ideas to work on. So this is the rejection sheaves, rejection filters at every phase. Phase 1 to phase 6 we call as a technology development cycle. If you are aware of this term called TRLs, technology readiness levels, so TRLs are used to map this 6 phases of technology development cycle. So your TRL level 1 to TRL level 4 means from basic research to concept validation in the lab which happens within the laboratories or in the academic institutions or universities. My TRL level, TR level 4 is the initial phases of my development cycle. Then 5 and 6, when I'm making prototypes, right? This can be at the incubator level, or it can be within the R&D labs, right? So this is the first major shift from lab to a simulator. This is what we call as a valley of death, when your development cycle faces a restriction or a first challenge to overcome. Then when you move from TRL 6 to 7, means from a simulated environment, you are going to real world. This is another valley or a ravine or a bridge you have to create to overcome this obstacle when your development from the simulated prototyping environment goes to real world to industry. So that is how we use technology readiness level to define the phases of technology development cycle, that is from phase 1 to phase 9, when it goes from basic principle to the real world. That is your TRL level and showing you the technology development cycle. Now, technology development happens by a process called natural technology development, NTDP. When you start with a basic research, goes to developing prototypes, and then taking those prototypes to market, maintaining it, operating it, and re-innovating it. So this is my make option when I'm making my technology to establish a technology leadership. So I'm doing the complete cycle. That I start with a basic research, conceptualization, innovation, assessment, and evaluation. Goes to phase 2, where I design, develop, prototype, test, manufacture. That is my RDDE activities, research, design, development, and engineering activities. And then my phase 3, when I improve my product in the market. So this is a complete cycle. I call it natural technology development process. Natural technology development process need two kinds of vectors to work in the synergy in same direction. One is a technology push vector, other is a market pull or need pull vector. So means my technological change, which is radical and transformational, brings some push, means it is giving the benefit to the user, it is giving some kind of advantage to me with a new technology. So I'm leveraging technology to provide benefits in a radical form, in a transformational form. Example, from a manual typewriter to electronic typewriter to a computer-based MS Word systems. So these are like technology pushes. Whereas a market pull or a need pull can be some unmet need, some self-generated or created need, and a small improvements to fill those needs is kind of a pull. So in my NTDP technology development, I have to synergize technology push with demand pull so that my new innovation and technology smoothly goes on a road created by the ecosystem and culture. This is the push-pull model of technology development. And here what the technology development cycle takes care of this particular shift, transformation from idea to the market. And how this push-pull model works, let's say there is a technology development, then I have to create a technology push, which can be created by advanced technology, by competitive advantage, by ease of taking care of impediments, new features, and USPs. So this is all the opportunities I create with new technologies. Then I have to also create a demand pull. A demand pull can be market demand, recognized needs, increased profits, quality or productivity, or entrepreneur push. So whenever a new technology or innovation integrates push and pull, it easily goes over technology development cycle. Right? So the recommended model for natural technology development processes that you synergize the vector directions for push and pull, and then your technology goes into the market. And then you have to create some bridges to take care of the obstacles which happen between TRL level 4 and 5 and 7 and 8. Right? So this is my technology development cycle and what we do in the first phase of technology. A second, I see technology application cycle. So my technology application is when my technology developed, it comes to market and it is a launching. It is being launched. So my previous cycle is prior to this. So when it is launched, means it is introduced to the market, then it grows, become mature, declines, and then it is dead. So end of the life of a technology. So this is how the technology is applied, how the user, customer, and the market uses the technology for the benefit. How the application of that technology is controlled, it is my later part, technology application cycle. So my technology application cycle, if we go into blow up and see all the phases in detail, so it starts from introduction, and prior to introduction is launch. So it is introduction, it is exponential growth, then a maturity, then decline, then phase out, and then obsolescence. And this is my core, this is the zone of obsolescence, after which I have to start digging the grave for my technology so that it rests in peace, and after this technology is taken out from the market. So introduction, growth, maturity, decline, phase out, and obsolescence are the phases of a technology application cycle. Now, technology application cycle may start in two different approaches. First approach is that your technology comes from technology development cycle, that your own R&D lab or the R&D lab of your own organization is creating technology for you, right? So that laboratory, which is under the control of same aegis, under the same CEO of an organization or a company, that R&D has created a technology, and now the marketing people and the maintenance people are taking it to the market. So that is first. That is a natural technology development process that from idea to obsolescence, it is all controlled by a single organization. But this doesn't happen very frequently. There are very few organizations, there are very few companies, there are very few industries which do the complete cycle. That they first make technology and then they apply technology. No, most of the companies, they start from a process called acquired technology development process. They acquire technology from somewhere else and put it to use. So for them, most important is technology application cycle, which is a product application cycle, not is technology development cycle, right? So their focus is selecting a good technology, appropriate technology, and putting that technology to use. So my 90 to 95% organizations, industry all around the world, they follow ATDP. Only very few industries where the objective or the mission of that company is to establish technology leadership, they do NTDP. But most of the company, they survive by doing ATDP. So let's see what is acquired technology development process. So acquired technology development process starts from search for our technology, not for development of technology. So their cycle starts from technology search. So in technology management, one of the very important topic is technology search. How you search technology, how you select a technology, and how you create a technology intelligence. So there are tools available. One of the tool I want to name here is called Technology Radar. So Technology Radar help you to first create an information data bank about the technologies, then search an appropriate technology, and then launch that technology into a market. So my ATDP starts from technology search, not technology development. So how the technology search cycle starts? ATDP starts from search for a technology. We should not invest in a technology because it is being hyped. Now, whosoever is making technology, means whosoever is innovating new technology, they want their technology to be sold or to be accepted by user as early as possible. Only then, because when the users start using it, buying it, and paying for it, you start recouping money, whatever you have spent on development of technology. So as a scientist, as a researcher, as an innovator, all of us use a terminology called hyping of technology. We hype the technology so much that this is a technology which is going to solve all my problems. And we try to lure the customers towards buying that technology. That customer can be an individual customer in the market, or that can be a big company or organization looking for technology. So hyping of technology we have to look at, and we just should not invest in our technology because it is too highly hyped. And also we should not ignore technology because it is not living up to early expectation. So my technology search mechanism, technology information gathering and finding appropriate technology out of that, help me to look at the hype cycle of technology. I'll come to that in the next slide, that what is a hype cycle and where we should pick our technology to come to us to start the technology application cycle. So we create our technology awareness, and this is done by our tool called Technology Radar. Then we write number of justifications that why this technology is an appropriate technology. And by choosing an appropriate technology, we start acquisition process of that technology. Once the technology is acquired, then we start installation of that technology and what we call as a technology adaptation. I'm not going into details of defining acquisition, adaptation, adoption, and everything, because then the session becomes unending. So technology acquisition, what are the strategies for technology acquisition itself is a topic in TM to study. What are the technology adaptation strategies? What are the technology adoption strategies? They are all in detail, if you go, are very interesting and give us insight that how companies operate. So after technology adaptation, we look for promotions, do technology advancements. Then we do what you call a demolition of the technologies, and then we finally abandon the technologies and we look for new technologies because there are new expectations, and again the awareness, and through this cycle is on. So this is what my technology application process do, or my technology acquired technology process do. Now let's go and spend 2-3 slides on discussing the hype. Okay, prior to that, I will further elaborate this particular cycle. So your acquired technology development process starts with these 4 options. Either you can beg our technology, or you can borrow our technology, or you can buy our technology, or you can steal our technology. So technology can be begged, borrowed, bought, or stolen. So this is how your acquisition cycle start. It doesn't start with the innovation. I have n number of examples how begging, borrow, buy, and steal starts the acquired technology. In India, entire green revolution for the self-sufficiency in the grain, food grain, started with begging of technology. So all my agriculture research labs and agriculture universities started with a beg technologies for starting green revolution. India's white revolution started from beg technologies. Then we borrow so many technologies that we are not buying, but for a time being, these are borrowed to meet the requirements. And you will see during the pandemic of COVID-19, India will be borrowing so many technologies, and other nations will be borrowing so many technologies to fight this pandemic. Buying of technology, we all know, we do so much of buying of technology in the parlance of defense. So number of defense and n number of defense technologies are being bought. Stolen, stealing of technology. Classic example is the nuclear development program of Pakistan. They stole the nuclear bomb design from Denmark. They adapted that design, sold that design to North Korea, and bought or borrowed the missile technologies and came their entire nuclear delivery platform. So number of people work on stealing the technologies. If you see the competitive fight between the cell phone companies, right from Huawei to Xiaomi to Samsung to Apple, so much cases of stealing of technologies is on. So technology being a commodity which has a price can be begged, borrowed, bought, and stolen, and that's how your ATTP starts. Your ATTP starts with a search, know what you want to buy. It goes to adoption, know which. So out of so many, I have to pick one. So adoption, like I have a list of 10 technologies, but I adopt 1 or 2. So this is called adoption. And after adoption, what all being done in adoption itself is a session. Like I give one example, let's say I'm buying a technology from United States. There the electricity is 110 volt and 60 hertz, but in India it's 220 volts and 50 hertz. So I have to tell my seller of technology, means the originator of technology, to adopt this technology for my environment. Okay. So adoption and what are the strategies of adoption itself is a Pandora box to open. Then adaptation. Then this technology, which is working fine at A place, should also work fine at B place. That is my requirement. So the originator of the technology will bring that technology and show in my environment this is work. So lot my defense equipments, when they are tested in Pokhran Desert, in the Jaisalmer Desert, so those people bring the equipment in that conditions, plus 50 degrees and zero humidity and all kind of dust and sand particles, and they show how this technology works. It is called adaptation of technology. And after adaptation of technology, we sign some documents to acquire technology, that is called acquisition of technology. And once technology is acquired, we start absorption, that is know-how. Then we do indigenization, that is know why. Then we diffuse, know how to use it. Then upgradation, it is called know make. And then if we want to make the products out of technology to become the competitor to the original technology maker, it is called boomerang, and this is no competitors, because I become competitor to the original maker of technology. So this is my ATDP cycle, which starts from search, and in the idealistic condition, it should end at boomerang, right? Now, for doing this ATDP cycle, you require different set of capabilities. You must have very high adoption capabilities, adaptation expertise, absorption capabilities, diffusion capabilities, upgradation capabilities, and then understanding the game of competition, boomeranging capabilities. So there are different set of capabilities which are required for ATDP, and there is a different set of capabilities you require for doing NTDP. Now, which technology to search, which technology to adopt? There is another cycle in technology management that is called hype cycle. And this hype cycle helps us to understand that how the technologies are placed and what is the hype about that technology, so that we don't get into buying a wrong technology. Now, Indian industry, communication industry, is very forcefully telling the government to buy the 5G technologies for communication. Right? So whether it's a BSNL or a Reliance, or it is a Jio, or it is a Airtel, everyone wants to go for a 5G technology. But as an expert on technology management and technology assessment, and you can also do this exercise on your own, you tell me how many countries are going for 5G technology. And you will find that there are only few cities, and there are few cities and the pockets which are going for 5G. And the research in the world, whether it's a Nokia Sweden or a Lucent AT&T in US or Huawei in China, their research has stopped on 5G. They are working on the next category of technology, that is a portable microcell 7G technology. Now, they have realized that 5G is not going to provide them some kind of advantage. And it's a very, very short-term gap. So that's why the 5G technology is now being bundled and it is available for sale. And so much of hype is created about 5G that the nations which are incapable of doing their internal research on the G category of technologies, they are, because their hype, positive hype, are getting attracted towards 5G technology. So as a technology assessment experts, it is your role to tell your CTOs, CFOs, and CIOs, or the strategy makers, that what is a positive hype, what is a negative hype, and at what level you should invest into a technology to acquire it and to put it to use. That scenario is different if you are making your own technology. If you are investing and making your own 5G in India, then it is legitimate, then it is justified, then it is rational that the money you have spent in making 5G should be recouped by putting that 5G to use in the commercial market. But if you are buying 5G, why to invest in 5G, which is almost like a thrown bundle thrash technology by the countries who have made it? So the positive hype, negative hype, I have to understand. So when a technology is triggered, then certainly because of the hype created by the researchers, innovators, and by the media to whom they pay, All of us see this show on TV called Gadget Guru. So NDTV show Gadget Guru. These are the paid people on the channel to create hype about the technology. Whether it's a Samsung new foldable phone, which is going to cost 1.7 lakhs, or the new kind of technologies, maybe the new kind of earbuds or the iPods kind of coming. So their job is only to create a hype so that the customer buy that technology. So technology trigger, as the technology is triggered, then the people who are expert in creating hype, they create a hype and they paint a picture of inflated expectations. So suddenly this hype increase and the technology reaches at the peak of inflated expectations. What happens after reaching the inflated expectations? When the few buyers, because of this inflated expectations, buy a technology and they find that the hype was so much inflated, but the actual performance of technology is low, then those negative points and the negative feedback starts coming into market. When this negative feedback comes into a market, then starts the negative hype. And then starts a true of disillusionment, which is a very sharp slope that because you are not able to meet the inflated expectations, then suddenly the hype of the technology comes down. At this stage, what happens? At this stage, the company and the innovators and the originals of technology do some more innovations into this. On what the software industry do? When their beta version comes by the negative hype, they release some more features which they have not released in the first version. With the release of new features, then they create a second upward hype and after this hype, which is not as per the inflated hype of the earlier version, it goes to a slope of enlightenment where they learn and match the performance parameters of the technology with the user needs in the market. This we call as a slope of enlightenment, and then we reach a plateau of productivity. So as a technology manager, if I am going to search and acquire a technology, I will never invest in a technology which is on a positive high. I will never invest in a technology which is on a negative high. So for me, the zone or the area of technology investment to acquire a technology is slope of enlightenment and plateau of productivity. So this is how the technology search ends into finding an appropriate technology for you. So if I see, so there's a technology trigger, a new technology. So I have explained that. So I'll just skip this particular slide. So what happens? R&D, technology trigger, laboratory prototype, negative press begins when the negative points of the technology comes. Imagine MG Hector, new automobile in Indian market. Advertisement coming, intelligent car, connected car, being a human being. It's a creation of hype. Now car comes to market, there are some negative impacts because of the design of Europe and the backview of China making a car. How it is going to suit the Indian conditions and Indian customers. So much of negative press becomes. So you comes to a trough of disillusionment. Then the company improvise, do re-innovations to meet the customer requirements of Indian market. This is slope of enlightenment and the plateau of productivity. So this is my Gartner Hype Cycle 7 phases, which help us to search an appropriate technology for us. Now, after seeing the development cycle and application cycle, now spend some time on integrated technology life cycle. Means when I combine both, when I combine the development cycle and the application cycle, how it looks like and what kind of strategies I can make out of this life cycle. So my y-axis is gains, my x-axis is lifespan. So my initial phase, which is research and development, is a negative because here the money is being pumped by the organizations, by the industry, by the company, by the organizations to do research and development. So that's why the research and development in the earlier stages used to be termed as overheads, because you are pumping money out of your kitty, and this kitty is the profit you have generated from the selling of your products and technologies. So once the technology is ready and the product is ready, it is launched. After launching, the negative and the positive, high positive and the negative hypes and the disillusionment and the plateau. And once the plateau of productivity is achieved, then you come to a phase of ascent. So between this launch and ascent happens your Gartner hype cycle. So this entire cycle happens between just before launch and just before ascent. And this phase of technology is called chasm, 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 technology chasm. So technology chasm is when your negative hype is taken care of by the slope of enlightenment, and then you are suddenly increasing or you are growing in numbers in the market, ascent. So this is chasm phase where the Gartner hype cycle happens, and this is the knee point or the turning point for technologies. If you don't manage this properly, technologies may be rejected at this point, and if you pass this phase, technologies goes into the application cycle. So then you have ascent, maturity, and decline, and this total we call is a lifespan from 0 point to this point. Now, if I further blow up the integrated life cycle and see it and study it phase by phase, because for every phase, we have a different set of procedures and strategies. We have a different set of frameworks to handle that. So I have to study it phase by phase, that how technology integrated cycle, that is my development and application cycle, look like. So my development cycle are same from phase 1 to phase 6, which we have discussed earlier. So you start with idea generation and selection, technology development, technology application design, technology prototype development, market and testing, and application launch. So here is my technology or a product is launched. So what we do basic research here, we do applied research here, we do market research here. So this is my negative side. So expenditure and time span. So this is my negative side where I'm pumping in the expenditure and I'm making a technology. Now, as a technology manager, what should I want? That this cycle should be as short as possible. As short as possible in terms of time and as least expenditure in terms of money. So if I can shrink the time and reduce the expenditure, more are the chances of gaining out of that expenditure and time in the application cycle. So we have the strategies here, we have the philosophies and techniques, how to shrink the time of development, how to reduce the cost of development, right? Why multinational companies are bringing their R&D facilities to India? Because cost of doing R&D in India is most economical in the world, right? In spite of 9% rise, we are still 25% cheaper than China. So that's why Word wants to bring their R&D facilities to India, because they want to save on the cost of development. Why the automobile companies R&D set up in India? Because cost of doing automobile R&D in India is 1/10 the cost of doing R&D elsewhere in the world. So they are doing R&D, they are coming up with the new technologies, new features, but the point, unfortunately, is the new features and new technologies which they make out of Indian workforce in India are not available for sale for Indian domestic market. That goes to international market. That is the technology clauses with which they have established their R&D facilities in India. So whether it's a Philips, whether it's a Grundig, whether it's a Sony, whether it's any kind of automobile factory, the research happens here, but the new technologies goes outside to the outer world, not come to Indian market. So this is the development cycle. Once it is launched, it is introduced, grows, maturity, saturation, and decline. So I will say that my integrated technology cycle, which is my technology development and technology application, are 11 phases, where few phases are expenditure of money and revenue, and then you have a phase where you start gaining. And whatever you gain out of this phase, you pump back into doing the next version of R&D. So how we shift from first technology cycle to second technology cycle, we will see later on. But this is one particular technology, that how technology gets converted into a product, and then the product lives its cycle in the market. So this is a product life cycle or a technology life cycle, and the amalgamated technology development and application life cycle. Now, the point to learn is this axis, that is your origin, where your x-axis and y-axis are hitting. This is the black dot I have created here. So when you launch, that when you shift from development to application cycle is the most crucial stage in technology development. Means when from a laboratory where the technology has been packed into an application, prototype developed, and when this application is ready for launch, means it goes to market, this is the most crucial phase, and most of my technology development effort die or decay at this stage, because we are not able to seamlessly transfer the technology from the phase one, from the first I will say the category of technology development cycle, first the technology development cycle to technology application cycle. So this particular point where these two axes interact, what we call as a product launch, is also termed as a valley of death. So this terminology I'm using from the terminology used in Silicon Valley. In Silicon Valley, there are small companies which are making technologies, and then they are shifting technologies to market. And they say that almost 90% of the effort of Silicon Valley, they are dying in the valley of death because of lack of funding. So what happens? Transition from development to application. So in initial stages, there are many government funding, grants, grant in aids, right? And seed capital, which is given by various government-funded organizations. Like in India, Department of Science and Technology gives so much grant. Department of Biotechnology give grant. DRDO give grant. Indian Space Agency give grant to the small research companies to do research for them. Now, when this government grant is being used, if it is a grant, there is no liability. It can be a soft loans. It can be grant in aids. It can be, there are all kinds of mechanisms which exist through project proposals, having a PI from the DRDO lab, having a PI from the university. Together, some fund is given to do the research. So this is a government funding initial phase. But as you are able to make and demonstrate some kind of technology, this technology must find some interest in the private sector. This technology must find some interest in the DPSUs, public sectors, private sectors, so that they start funding and they pull out this technology for the use in the private sector. So for that, we have to create some bridge so that as the government funding is declining, your private funding should take on and create a bridge to cover this valley of death so that there is no lack of funding and your technologies don't die into this valley of death. So this bridge, creation of bridge over valley of death, is the concept of creating incubators. That is your technology incubators, business incubators, and accelerators. Right. So this is the concept of valley of death and the concept of incubators and accelerators, and also what you call as the business incubators is the concept of Silicon Valley, that where the research companies which are government funded and the big private companies, right? So they create a valley of bridge. I used to interact with many of the incubator owners, and one of the famous names is Vinod Dham from Intel, the person who created the Intel chip, and now he owns an incubator. So Mr. Dham, what he do? He keeps on traveling all over the world, whether China, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Silicon Valley, Tel Aviv. He just picks the technologies which are done by the government funding between the PIs of the academic institute and a research lab. He picked that technology, bring to his bridge, that is, he has created a Dham incubator. Now, Dham incubator convert that technology into some kind of a useful package for a customer. So he buys this technology. Imagine he comes to Bangalore, picks a very promising new technology. He take it to incubator Dham. So he buy it for X amount, right? So that X amount means a startup is being sold to him, let's say at 1 million. So those youngsters from IITs become millionaire overnight just by selling their half-cooked, half-baked idea. So this Dham put the entrepreneur skill, market skill, production skills, all kind of incubator skills he has on a common platform. He enriches that idea, which is sellable to industry. So he do technology fair twice a year. In this technology fair, all big companies come and they buy those ideas. So he buys for X, sells for 100X. He just do 2 companies in a month and create billion fortune. And he has just created an incubator sitting in his room, in his house, with his ideas of creation of companies, he is creating his billions worth of amount every year. So this is what the valley of death is doing into the Silicon Valley. And this is what should be the aim of technological expert. If you can have and acquire the skills of creating this incubating skills, then your sky is limit for you, that you can buy ideas all over the world, enrich it, sell it to big companies. Because big companies do innovations in the business process. Big companies only survive on buying new ideas and technologies from a small research companies. This is how the bigger companies, even the Facebook, even the Apple, and even the Microsoft are surviving on. So they are the big fish eating the small research companies, and these small research companies are available at all hotspots all over the world, but they have to be cooked into incubator. And good that India has learned, at least in 2019, that unless I create a bridge of over this valley of death by incubators, I cannot survive in competitive market. And today the incubator concept is on. Maybe in next 10 years, we will have incubators which have capabilities equivalent to international arena. And then you will find number of Vinod Dhams sitting in India, going all over the world, buying technologies and selling to Indian industry. And next 10 years, that's why I sell, is going to be the bubble of research and development in India. Like 1990s was the age of IT, 20 to 2030 is the age of research and development in India. So much of growth, so much of job opportunity, if you have the skills to sit on this bridge, and then you will realize that the sky is limit for the people who have this kind of skills. So what they do, they create technology push. What the incubators like Dham incubators do, or a Greentown incubators like, which is in Boston. So they create technology push and technology pull so that they reduce this gap. And this gap is filled by giving consultancies to private companies to commercialize. So existing research, existing commercialization, a challenge basin that is valley of death, and a bridge over that is incubator, is the learning from the technology life cycle and the strategy to make technology commercialize. So what is actually being done in this bridge? So you have R&D test beds, which are in the universities and the R&D labs. So research and development. And then you have incubators, which can be a national labs, which can be private labs, which can be individual labs, anyone. D&E test beds. So design, research and development, design and engineering test beds. And then you have a demonstration and deployment test beds, which are in industry. So these 2 points, R&D test beds, D&D test beds, and D&E test beds. If this kind of facilities and the competencies you are able to create within your nation, within your industry, you will be able to transform, or you're able to transverse from this phase to this phase of technology life cycle. And that is what we learn from integrating technology development and technology application life cycle. Now, technology, when in the market, has another life cycle that is called technology adoption cycle. How the customer adopt that technology. And after learning this technology adoption cycle, we will come to know that what is the behavior of a customer towards a technology. Then accordingly, I can revisit and design my application and my development cycle. So what is the adoption cycle? So once a technology is introduced, it is called stage 1, where it has just come from the research and development. So in the research and development phase, this technology is only with the innovators, right? So these innovators are using technology. These innovators can also be the people who are involved in making the technology, or these innovators can be who are just do the user trials and market testing for you. So there are very few selected numbers. So company makes certain prototypes, maybe 100, 200 prototypes, give it to these people to use it and give the very realistic feedback that how it can be improved. Still it is in the R&D phase. It is not going to the market. So example is, you go to a doctor, physician, number of time doctor go give you the sample drugs or the sample prescription medicine that a pharmaceutical company has given that drug to a doctor, and that doctor is trying it on a patient and giving a feedback to the pharmaceutical company. So what you call physician samples. So these physician samples are the stage 1 innovators, where the innovators are testing it on the patients and giving it a feedback back to the companies. So where the percentage of technologies sold is very less, and it is very initial stage where the technology is still trying to improve and match the requirements of a customer. Now, after this phase, it goes to early adopters. There will be very few people, what we call as a lead customers. They get some kind of a zing or a kick to adopt to a technology as early as possible. So you find that there are a number of enthusiasts, early adopters, which will sleep in the front of an Apple showroom overnight just to pick the first cell phone or a first iPad or a first Mac. So these are the early adopters. There will be very few individuals in the market who will go and buy a car which is designed for the first time, which is introduced to the market for the first time. Because most of the people wait for the feedback from the initial adopters. So these are the early adopters in the introduction stage. You see the slope of the curve? It is growing very slowly. From stage 1 to stage 2, it's a very, very slow, very, very gradual slope and a slow growth. But when there is a positive feedback from the adopters, then the early majority take on the technology. And then you have a chasm and you have exponential growth. And this is what we call a growth phase. So early majority adopt to the technology, and then after early majority, then comes the late majority. That is the majority or the major of the population take this technology. But there are few individuals which are waiting for this product to improve. Let this product go through innovators, early adopters, early majority, late majority. When it is totally stabilized, when the service network is totally stabilized, they say, because now the product has come to a level that even the third tier vendors are able to make the spares for this particular product. So my servicing costs become economical because the spares are now made by n number of vendors and n number of ancillaries, which is easily available. So I will only buy the product when this is stabilized over a time. So we have laggards, and during the decline stage, we pick technology. So this is the adoption cycle, which goes through innovators, early adopters, early majority, late majority, and laggards. And this is how the adoption life cycle look like. Now, if I see and superimpose my hype cycle and adoption cycle, what is the learning out of that? So my early expectations are a positive hype. So positive hype is only happening when there is innovators picking the technology. So either technology is given free of cost, or they are so enthusiastic to work on that technology and give a feedback, so lead customers. So this is when the positive hype, only the innovators pick up. When you reach the peak of inflated expectation and you start dropping down, then comes your early adopters. Somewhere in between, when the company realizes that now to give a second steroid shot to the technology so that it goes up again, they start doing re-innovations. This is when the early adopters adopt our technology. So if I talk about the complete population, 2% of that form my innovators, 14% of form my early adopters. And when the technology comes to the slope of enlightenment, this is where the early majority gets into it. And this is around 34% of my population. Then when it reaches plateau of productivity, means now the companies who have made the technologies are not going to invest further into this technology. It is not going to further improve the performance of this technology because the money they are encashing out of early majority profits. So my cash cow technology, which is giving me now money out of early majority, this money is being utilized into the next version in the R&D. My next version of technology development. So money is now being taken out and it goes into the next version of research and development. And we know that technology is not going to improve beyond this. And this is the stage when the late majority comes in. Because now all features have been stabilized. All features have lived through early majority. All the problems and hiccups in the set of features which are into this version of technology have been taken care of. Now they know that company is not going to improve the next versions. It is not going to come with the next version of features, next set of features. So this is a proven stabilized technology. So my late majority come here. And then again, the laggards, which are 16%, which are so, what you call, so much people who just don't want to take any risk, who just want to be, who are not comfortable with uncertainties, who are not who are not comfortable with known unknowns. They just wait for everything to stabilize. And this is my laggard population. And this happens during plateau of productivity when the people adopt this cycle. Now, after seeing hype cycle, after seeing adoption cycle, right? And after seeing the complete integrated cycle, I will come to another very important concept in technology life cycle. It is called truncated technology life cycle, or what you call a technology performance life cycle. What happens? Though the complete life cycle of technology is, or complete technology application life cycle is from the introduction to decay and decline. But what happens? This technology life cycle, application life cycle is truncated in between. Why it is truncated? It is truncated because at this time, one of my competitors will introduce a new technology which is better than my performing technology, right? A competitor will come up with a new technology in the market for application which is better than my technology. So what happens? When the customer sees a new technology with new features, they stop buying my technology. So what happens? At this stage, somewhere late majority and laggards, when a new technology comes, the early adopters, early majority, late majority start running for that particular new technology. So my later part is only left with laggards. So my technology is truncated in between. And at this stage in market, a next version of technology is there. Either I, as an organization, introduce a new technology, or my competitor introduces a new technology. So this generally happens when my existing technology hits its upper limit of performance. So when this technology reaches the upper limit of performance, means when this technology reaches the plateau of productivity, upper limit of performance, then this technology life cycle is truncated and we start living with a new technology life cycle. So we call it S curve, or a technology typical growth curve, or a truncated technology life cycle, right? So if you do the cumulative technology, cumulative sales pattern of any technology, cumulative number of technology sale, agar aap accumulation karenge, then you will find that this statistical curve will form into a S curve. It will sum up because after that, the gains are less and the money you have recouped has already gone into the production of the next version of technology. So it will summarize into some kind of a S curve. So what happens? This truncated S curve means this is my old technology. Initial performance of technology is poor. As the experience with the technology goes, performance also improves. And eventually you hit the upper limit of performance. So when you have hit the upper limit of performance, at this level, you are coming up with a newer technology, then the second version of technology, third version of technology, fourth version of technology. This is how the companies live in the market, by coming with newer versions of technology. So what happens where this technology curve is truncated? So this technology curve is truncated somewhere after hitting the maturity phase, right? So innovation, introduction, growth, maturity, decline. So we don't allow the technology to slide through the decline phase. Somewhere when you are transiting between maturity and decline, we truncate this cycle. When we truncate when we are ready with the next version of technology. But if I am not ready with the next version of technology, then the strategy available to a technology manager is life extension. So what are the strategies for life extension? What are the strategies for truncation? This is what the point of inflection tells me when I see the technology performance cycle or a S-curve cycle. So innovations and subsequent innovation injects new life in technology. So we do number of time of life extension. There are a number of officers who are sitting from Indian Air Force. Study the classic example of MiG-21. Why India went for MiG-21 upgrade 99? Even in 99, we never had the next version of technology. We never had the technology to truncate MiG-21 cycle because they're the backbone of Indian Air Force, maximum number of squadrons. So we ran back to Russia to get a life extension of MiG-21. So the strategies, what the technology managers decide, whether to truncate or go for a life extension, depends on that what we have the next versions available to us or not. So what happens if we are truncating the technology? So means we are discontinuing the previous technology and coming up with the new technology. So this is what we call as a discontinuity phase, right? So this is a discontinuity phase of technology, where technology is discontinued and you jump to next curve. So managing discontinuity or technology discontinuity is another concept which technology lifecycle tells us and help technology managers to make the strategies for bringing in the new technologies. So we will see in detail what is the meaning of technology discontinuity. So let's see. So your yellow color is my performance curve, that is a S curve. And blue color is my adoption curve, right? So you have innovators, early adopters, early majority, late majority, and laggards. And this is my S curve. Means here I am hitting the plateau of productivity from the hype cycle. So my plateau of productivity, upper limit of physical performance, and my laggard adoption, they should match the juncture of our technology. So when you are hitting the performance limit, when you are hitting the plateau of productivity, you should shift to next technology. Similarly to a third technology. So that's why we are in the second wave of innovation. We are in the fourth wave. Now, these innovations should come at an interval, and how to plan and space this interval is the responsibility of a CTO, Chief Technology Officer of a company, or the technology managers of a company. So what is happening now, that Indian government has also realized this fact, that all the ministries under Government of India, which are not the S&T ministries, which are not science and technology ministries, what we call as a line ministries. So every line ministry in Government of India must have a CTO, Chief Technology Officer. They are not calling it as a chief, they are calling it as a technology officer. The role of technology officer of every line ministry or a department of technology officer in every line ministry is now going to tell Government of India when they need a second wave, when they need a third wave, or when they need a fourth wave, right? And by institution, ITM is designing a curriculum to train all the technology officers of line ministries that how to manage this discontinuity. How to manage this discontinuity so that the next versions of technologies come to your ministries and you remain competitive in the competitive market. You remain progressive in the competitive market in India, and you will be able to survive that. So this is the S-curve, discontinuity and technology adoption. When we integrate all these cycles together, this tells us that this is the time when the next wave of innovation should come. Now the question is, from where the funding will come to do this next wave of innovation? Whatever you earn here, whatever you earn from early adopters, early majority and late majority and laggards, the kitty which you earn as a profit go into your R&D departments to come up with the next wave of innovation. But now this next wave of innovation, when it is going to happen, is not controlled by R&D department. It is controlled by the competitive pressures in the market. So the next wave of innovation required when it is dictated by the competition pressures in the market. So the hands of R&D professionals are tied. They cannot consume unlimited resources. They cannot consume unlimited time because their time factor and resources are limited and they are controlled by market force. So this is the reason why we have new paradigms of doing research and development. The previous laboratories of yesteryears had unlimited resource, unlimited time, and very less resources to do R&D. So they were taking decades to do it. But now in the industry, this time factor is decided by the company. And this all depends on the industry. If I take cell phone industry, the next version comes within next few months, 6 months. If I take a laptop industry, maybe 1 year. If I take an automobile industry, maybe 4 to 5 years. If I take an aeronautic industry, maybe 8 years. So industry-wise, this spanning of next wave of innovation differs. And this is how the R&D managers and technology managers plan doing their R&D to manage discontinuity and use technology adoption. Okay. So this technology discontinuity, which is done by creative destruction, creates a phase called paradigm paralysis. Very important concept in technology management. It says when you are shifting from first wave to second wave, this shaded area creates a paradigm paralysis for the organization. And the organization doesn't have the capabilities to manage this paradigm paralysis. Then they plunge into this paralysis and it becomes difficult for them to come out of that. Right? Imagine the Indian two-wheeler industry. We all know the era when the scooters in India were only Lambretta and Bajaj Chetak. Suddenly, the technology changed. Came your Vespa from Piaggio, Italy. Came your Honda from Kinetic Honda and Honda Motors. And came lot many foreign collaborators with the next wave of technology. What happened to the Bajaj Motors, who were the leaders in making Chetak scooters in India, who were making the two-wheelers? Till date, they are not able to come out of the paradigm paralysis and they are out of the two-wheeler scooter market, right? Similar thing happens to the Morris Ambassador in India. Similar thing happened to the Fiat India. They were the leaders in the four-wheelers in India. But with the Maruti and the newer companies coming with the newer technologies, these companies went into paradigm paralysis. And the technology managers never had the competencies to sail the companies out of paradigm paralysis. So they just vanished. Somewhere in 94, 95, Indian color TV industry was booming. We have so many companies making Indian color TVs, like Tesla, Western, Crown, Uptron, Keltron. Every state had a company of making CRT-based color television. Then came the era of new technology, that is your plasma screen, LED screens, and the flat TVs. Every company went into paradigm paralysis and they are just vanished. They are extinct. No Indian company is making a next version of TV. So if your companies, organizations, nations don't have the capabilities and strategies to come out of paradigm paralysis, God save those nations, God save those companies, right? Similarly is happening into my organization. Light combat aircraft, next version, deep penetration strike aircraft, fourth generation, fifth generation, we are into the phase of paradigm paralysis. And if those aeronautical experts and technology managers cannot pull this organization out of paradigm paralysis, God save the organizations which don't think in this direction. So the paradigm paralysis is another important concept in technology management, which help technology managers to plan the strategies that how we will move to the next version of technology. I will quote some examples that how the companies have taken this into the positive stride and came out as the winners. And after these examples, I will close the session and 10 minutes and 15 minutes or so, I will take up questions. 1927. So question was to our technology manager, either to die in paradigm paralysis or you go for a paradigm shift. So 1927, this company called Warner Brothers, who are the giant today and the leaders today in making talking movies, they were into a status of paradigm paralysis where the mindset and the orthodoxy in that company was, who the hell wants to hear actors talk? They were pioneers in making silent movies, but they were not ready to shift to talking movies. So some technology manager gave them an insight and brought them out of paradigm paralysis and took them to paradigm shift. And now they are the leaders in talking movies. On the microchip, Advanced Computing System division of IBM in 1968. So the orthodoxy and the mindset was, but what this microchip is good for? But someone challenged this paralysis, brought the change and the shift, and they are today the lead microchip manufacturers, and they are the leaders in microchip design. So Vinod Dham was the person who was heading IBM and who was the inventor of the Intel chip, right? IBM Intel chip. And later on, he has started his own incubator. Home PC. There is no reason anyone would want a computer in their home. Kjell Olsen, President, Chairman, Founder of Digital Equipment Corporation, 1977. Very few of us know that the first desktop was made by this company, Digital Equipment Corporation. But the president of this company was in the paradigm paralysis, and he had the orthodoxy that this home PC, a small desktop, is of no use. In fact, the technology forecasters of that company said that in a word, there will be a market only for the 5 computers. And today you can't imagine your life without a home PC. So see how the people in 77 challenged the paralysis and shifted to the next version. The technological genius of our age, Bill Gates, even this person had this paradigm paralysis. 640K ought to be enough for anybody on the storage memory. Even he was hampering the progress of Apple he was hampering the progress of Microsoft by not allowing them to go beyond 640K. But some technology managers helped him to change to the shift. And today we have terabytes and multiples of terabytes into memory. Caterpillar, we know this company who make drill machines. So their paralysis, drill for oil, you mean drill into the ground to try and find oil, you are crazy. So they were not making the drills for finding hydrocarbon fuels beneath earth. And somebody challenged this paralysis, challenged this orthodoxy, and brought this company into the forefront. All my examples here are that these leaders in that technology, these leading companies in that technology, once upon a time faced this paralysis. But they came out of that and managed to become the leaders. Flying machines. Lord Kelvin, President Royal Society of UK, 1895, had this kind of a paralysis about flying machines. Heavier than air, flying machines are impossible. And today you see, my mode of travel without flying machines is impossible. Telephones, Western Union Western Union company who was managing the telegraph, your telegram business in UK. This telephone has too many shortcomings to be seriously considered as a means of communication. So paradigm shift and paradigm paralysis. So when this company pulled down their shutters, when they stopped their or closed their business, because this was a telegraph company, this was the last telegram they have sent. Oops. Western Union sent its last telegram in 2006. When they closed this company, they never changed to the paradigm shift of telecommunication. So overcoming paradigm paralysis and managing paradigm shift is a sense of survival and growth. So I close this session with a quote from Charles Darwin, who said, "It is not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the most responsive to the change." So the species who are able to shift and challenge the paradigm paralysis. And if the technology is also a living being, like a technology life cycle, so the statement of Charles Darwin also hold good for technology. So these are the learning out of technology life cycle. Thank you so much. I close this session on technology life cycle. Now for 10 minutes, we are open to questions.
Thank you, sir. I'll just put forward the questions which has been put in the chat box, sir.
Right.
Mr. Suman Manda, he is asking to complete the market demand within time frame, technology is needed, but on what basis we should select what level of technology we should adopt so that the market demands can be fulfilled?
Okay, very good question. Technology succeed and fail with its appropriateness. So technology is appropriate at a particular place, means location, and at a particular time. So technology fail if they are ahead of their time or they are lagging the time, right? So we have to match and we have to synergize the appreciation of the technology by the customer at a particular location, and then that bring that technology. So matching this need and technology is very important. So this is where your experts in technology management work with the marketing people So they synergize the benefit offered by the technology and the appreciation of that benefit in the market by the user. I think I gave this example of Kinetic Honda yesterday. Did we discuss this example or no?
No, sir.
No, okay. Then I'll come to this. We all know that the first automatic gear scooter came in India somewhere in 95-96, where Kinetic in Pune and a Honda of Japan together came out with a scooter called Kinetic Honda. The same Kinetic Honda scooter failed miserably in Indian market. Why? Because Indian customer in late 80s and early 90s never had the appreciation for the aerodynamic fragile shapes and the automatic sun and planetary gear system which was driving the scooter was synonymous with the feminist scooter in India. We were happy with the gear scooters like Bajaj Chetak and Lambretta. But today, everyone from a youngster to a age-old people, they drive the gearless Honda scooter. Because that Kinetic Honda in late 80s and early 90s was ahead of time in Indian market. So this is how we have to synergize the technology offerings and the appreciation in the market. This is called the adoption of technology in the market, which is very important.
So again, question by Mr. Sumant. Where the technology demand is more in context of investment at the introductory stage or the maturity stage to sustain in market?
Sorry, I couldn't understand the question. Where the demand of technology is more?
Yes, sir. The demand of technology is more, sir. Whether it's at the introductory stage or at the maturity stage.
If you recall, in the adoption cycle, I have given certain figures as a percentage. I am flashing it again. Innovator 2%, early adopter 14%, early majority 34%, late majority 34%, and laggard 60%. This percentage is the demand of technology, right? So my production line should look into this, that when you hit the chasm stage, when you start exponentially growing, when you're shifting from early adopter to early majority, your demand is growing. Then demand is maximum at early majority peak stage, then it starts declining and comes to 16% at the laggard stage.
The two questions you have covered, sir, but I'll still ask them, sir. One is by Mr. Surya Kiran. He's asking how to search or research for sustainable technologies that could last at least 20 years and then could be dumped into the rupture stage.
20 years, times are gone. You tell me which industry survived with the same technology for 20 years except the defense and space. In that, the private companies generally don't venture. It's only the combat aircraft, combat ships, combat tanks. Here also the life is not more 10 years now. If you are talking about 20 years, you are starting already an obsolete business or an obsolete concept. For cell phone, the life of technology is 6 months. For a TV, the shelf life of a technology is maybe 2 years. For an automobile, shelf life is 3 years. For a computer, ICT technologies, maybe 1 year. 20 years is only a dream. If as a technology manager, I can find a technology which has a life of 20 years, life for a technology manager and R&D professional